Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be talking about the different versions of the Bible, and not English translations this time. It's going to be how some Bibles have more books than others, and why. The reason for this has been because several people have been asking me about the Ethiopian Bible specifically. So today I'm going to be looking into that. As always, please remember, don't trust anyone blindly, whether it's someone on a platform like YouTube or TikTok, or a scholar or a pastor. Always feel free to do your own research. So as always, I will put some sources into the description box so that you will have the opportunity to look into this further if you so desire. So today we're going to be looking at the three Christian canons: the Protestant Canon, the Catholic Canon, and the Eastern Orthodox Canon. And if that word is new for you, that's okay. So let's talk about, what does canon mean? So the Greek there, kanon, it means rule or measuring stick. And this is the idea of what is Scripture? What do we, especially in the Protestant faith, right? We're big about being people of the book or living by Scripture. So it's those books that constitute that rule or that measuring stick for Christian life. There are three canons: Protestant, the Catholic, and the Eastern Orthodox. Now, an easy way to maybe begin to categorize some of this in your mind is we sometimes talk about the Eastern Church and the Western Church. So the Eastern Church, as you might have guessed, is the Eastern Orthodox, and the Western Church consists of the Catholic and Protestant views. The main difference in all three of these is not in the New Testament. It is instead in the Old Testament. Most of what we're going to be looking at today is differences in some of the Old Testament canonical books. As a quick aside for the New Testament, if you're curious about that, I'm happy to go more in depth. But as a kind of quick idea of how that formed, the New Testament books were circulated in the early church, and while there was some debate about them, the 27 books we have in the New Testament have been pretty commonly accepted fairly early on within church history. There was some debate as to which books should be included. Some of the books, like the Gospels, were decided fairly early on that they were good, that we could put them in the canon. But some of the other books were not. Hebrews, in particular, is one of the more difficult ones, because one of the criteria for the canonical New Testament was that it either had to be written by an apostle or someone related to, like closely correlated with an apostle. And even today, we don't know who wrote Hebrews. So Hebrews had a bit of a difficult time getting in the canon compared to the Gospel of Mark, for example. However, there were also other New Testament writings that did not make it, like 1 Clement or the Shepherd of Hermas. And ultimately, the decision was that either these books that didn't make it were a little too far from an apostolic author, or that while they were helpful for Christian practice, they shouldn't be considered canonized as Christian scripture. So that's some of the process of the New Testament. So now I'm going to go back to the three different versions that we have. So the first one is the Protestant Canon, and this one has the fewest books. The Protestant Canon has 66 books. Again, 27 of the New Testament, going to be pretty consistent here, but it has 39 Old Testament books. So the Protestant Canon actually follows the Hebrew Bible most closely, and this is because it has roots in the Reformation. So during the Reformation time, it was kind of decided that we were going to go back to the same text that the Hebrew Bible has. Our Bible is in a different order than the Hebrew one in certain places, but all the books are the exact same. So if you're wondering, well, how is that different? Because Protestantism came out of Catholicism. So the Catholic canon has 73 books, and it has 46 Old Testament books. And they have something called the Deuterocanonical books. Deutero means second, and we've already discussed canon, so it's like a secondary canon. They're also known as the Apocrypha, and the idea is that their authorship might be doubtful. A lot of these books, we're not actually sure who wrote them or if the authorship that's claimed is authentic. I've given an example of a few of the books in the Apocrypha: Tobit, Judith, and 1st and 2nd Maccabees. The Catholic canon has roots in something called the Septuagint. You can see there the LXX. And the Septuagint was a translation of the Hebrew Bible into Greek, named perhaps after the 70 people who are said to have translated it. And this version, the Greek version of the Hebrew Bible, has some differences from the Hebrew version. One of them being the inclusion of the apocryphal text. The Catholic canon is rooted in the Greek Septuagint translation of the Old Testament, which was used by the Jewish people who had been moved or who spoke predominantly Greek in the ancient world. And then we have the canon in question, or the one I get the most questions about personally, and it's the Eastern Orthodox canon. The Eastern Orthodox Church is big, it's spread over a wide area, so the canon isn't quite as set. As you can see, it's usually around 76 to 81 books, meaning that not all Eastern Orthodox canons or churches use the same books. So they do include the deuterocanonical books that the Catholic Bibles have, but they also have some additional writings, such as 3rd Maccabees, Psalm 151, and 1st Esdras. Of these books, the Ethiopian Bible has the largest canon, which might be why you've heard about it. So in general, the Eastern Orthodox canon is more flexible, it's more open, it has a lot of these secondary writings, but again, not in the New Testament. A lot of it is older. The big takeaway of this is that each of these canons has a reason why there are less books or more books. More doesn't mean better. Less doesn't mean better. There's a history as to why they have it. If you're curious, if you've never read the Apocrypha, go read through it. See what you think. There's no harm in reading an Ethiopian Bible, though I do think it is very difficult to get the whole thing in English, if not impossible. However, there are English Ethiopian Bibles, or you can download parts of the English Ethiopian Bible. So feel free to have a read, see what's different, see what's the same. A lot of the books that have been included are going to be quite a bit different than what is normative for the Protestant canon, for example. Psalm 151 reads very differently from all the other Psalms. And as long as you know that going in, there's no harm in reading it. So feel free to take a look, see what you think. But this is kind of the story of how those canons developed and why they're different. Thank you so much.